Streamed for 2 hours without audio. Well, that's problematic. Yeah, I did the affiliate status thing. Thoughts on the Steam thing? Why does everyone want to know my thoughts on things? I don't know. I don't. It's not surprising. I don't care. Okay. I am going to start doing bad things to the undo system. So hopefully they will end up being good things, but they're going to start out probably being bad things. I'm going to use this as a test level, DFA tutorial. So I'm going to start on that, but I'm going to move my guy for now so that he's here, just to reduce the amount of play around. So I'm going to go here to boop, boop. Okay, wait, now I'm confused. Maybe I don't need to edit undo. Like when I was at the office today, I was convinced some bad behavior was happening. Yeah, this is weird. Like I'm going 1, 2, and then rewinding once, and it's popping me back two squares. Why is that? That might be fixable. Any frame where you start falling. Yeah. Any frame where you start falling is not getting recorded. So the time when we, the way undo works is you save the state of the game at certain times. And we do that after a transaction occurs that brings us to a new state, and that transaction was initiated by the player. And then we have a special hack because we don't record states when you're falling, and then, if you stop falling. That is maybe not the best way to do it. It seems to me like the best way to do an undo that is the most solid is to do it when you start a transaction. Because that won't cause time drift. And the problem with that is that then if you're just running into a wall, you're starting all these move transactions that then don't do anything. But maybe in that case, we just flush the undo. Maybe we create the undo and then we throw it away if you're just banging your head into a wall. Possibly. Possibly. It seems like the right way to do it. Because the problem here, you know, you start moving and it takes some time to go to the next square. And then when you undo, you're actually going to undo to a time that's not when you started moving. You're going to undo to a time when you cross the square boundary. That does not seem good. Look at all these people with stars. Is it okay to use GoTo to get out of nested loops? If you want. I don't use GoTo ever. You could use a programming language that just lets you break out of nested loops without doing anything funny. Hint, hint. Hint, hint. Look at all the Twitch Prime subs. What's going to happen to all the streamers when they stop doing the Twitch Prime thing? Because I feel like the vast majority of subscriptions on Twitch are from Prime, right? That's not going to go forever, right? It can't go forever. It's just Amazon giving away free money to promote things. Like, it's going to be gone eventually. So, yeah. Amazon can afford it, sure, but at some point they'll stop doing it because they have better uses for the money. I would assume. Thanks, though. We've had 4 Prime subs, so I've made $10 so far on this stream. Amazon just gave me $10. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, I pay for Amazon Prime as well, so that will help pay for my Prime subscription so that I can Prime sub to other Twitch people. Yeah, trying to sell games is a tough business. It's a tough racket. Okay, so the problem with this plan that I said about record and undo, back up on it if nothing happened. Because it's not always trivial to know if nothing happened, because you have levels with like multi-clones running around and stuff. But let's try it because it seems the most robust thing. So I'm just going to start deleting stuff. So we need to call undo end frame. That's what we need to do. So I'm getting rid of all these bookkeeping variables. And now, if I play, probably undo won't really work. Yeah, it'll just pop me back to the beginning because we're never recording intermediate states. Okay. That's fine. Will the compiler have multiple compilation units kind of stuff when dealing with large projects, e.g. 20 million line of code? Well, you can do that yourself. Like, you can just make your metaprogram have compilation units. That said, why would you have 20 million lines of code? If you have 20 million lines of code, you have bigger problems than whether you have multiple compilation units or not. Yeah, I kind of wish that I could turn off sub notifications in the chat. Maybe there's a way to do that. Because I would like to keep the chat high quality. Could I explain what the metaprogram I mentioned is? Well, if you go on the YouTube channel, which you can probably search for, you'll find many demos of the metaprogram system for hours. There's all the information you could want. Yeah. I don't exactly know which video. There's one called, compile time execution and so forth. And that one probably shows the most metaprogram stuff. But there's other ones too. It's a big topic in this language, so it comes up a lot. Okay. Let me just make sure I don't call undo end frame anywhere else. I don't know why this thing doesn't remember my... I'm going to have to make my own search program at some point. That'll be a fun application. Visual interpolation, undo panel. Why in visual interpolation? Let's comment it out. Great. Okay. Okay, that's the declaration of undo end frame. Do one undo. It's fine. Record editor undo state. So that's for the editor only. Okay, good. So now, when we say enact next buffered move, that's when we want to do the undo. And the first thing we're going to do is just do the dumb version of that. Enact next buffered move. Okay, so if we're not falling, we enact the move. But before we enact the move, we say undo end frame manager.undo handler. Okay. So now my theory is, oh, I can't, okay. Interesting. Why can't I go? Oh, because there's two places. There's a thing where it's generate buffer. No. No. Who calls in act move? Just tests. Okay, I don't understand. Already we're getting behavior I don't understand. So if I double tap, so both moves were buffered. If I hit Z to undo, I go back one, but not the second. But if I don't double tap, then I go back. If I hold, what is going on? If I hold, and then I just don't get any at all? That's not how that's supposed to, what? This doesn't make any sense. Game report, not do report. Game report. Okay, well, we have to make that a lot shorter. Report dot fade in time equals O dot O 3. Report dot sustain time is O dot 15. All right. Fade out time. I just want to get this. Okay. So, dink, 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 dink. We claim we're recording the undo, but it's not actually happening. Because we're making a new one. Okay. Okay. Action type. Where's that? I bet undo is an action type. Yes. If move.actionType is not equal to actionType.undo. Because if we are doing an undo, don't save more things. Dink, 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 dink. Dink, 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 dink. Okay. So now it makes a little more sense. We're still skipping a square there. I don't know why that happens. Like, what the hell? But it might just be other weird hacks that we had in. Like, it's obviously there. That's so weird that we... I have to look at the code for do one undo. Like, it's calling undo end frame if I remember correctly, and that's probably not right. Like we sort of do 2 here. I'm just going to do this. Something like this. And I'm just going to say clear current undo frame handler. And we just get rid of all this stuff. And we just do an undo. Whoops. There. Maybe that's right. Maybe not. Why do I have no color? Must be that error doesn't have enough information. 2 overloaded definitions of the same. Oh, really? I already had it. Or did I just make it and then when I pasted it? Yeah, I must have not cut it from the buffer. That's fine. It's fine. Okay. Ding, 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 ding. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, that did not change behavior at all. This is a weird mystery. Why we skip over exactly the last frame only. At least we're consistent now. It's probably a thing where we just like pop first or something because we assume, I don't know. Let's see, really do one undo. It should go to the thing on the stack. I might have to re-record all the gameplay tests that have undos in them, unfortunately. I don't know, we'll see. Really do one undo. This takes the record. So we pop the last record. That seems right. We just pop whatever was there. Right, bro? Obviously, I can't program. It's true. So the dollar and dollar stuff is different from the syntax listed in the videos. So I don't, like if you go back and watch those videos, the functionality is mostly the same, but the syntax is a little different, so it'll be confusing. What do you think are the most important skills to be a better programmer? Well, just practice seriously. And notice when what you're doing does not work very well, or notice when it takes a long time to do something that you think should be simple. Don't be afraid to self-criticize. Is Array Nuke supposed to leak? Yes. Well, it doesn't actually, it doesn't free any, it doesn't lose any memory. It still points at the same memory. We're just saying Oh, no, right. Because allocated will force it to reallocate. I'm pretty sure this was... I don't know. Let's see. But I'm not going to worry about it right now. What I'm worried about is undo. Okay, wait, that time. Okay, so this thing. So that's the annoying behavior we want to get rid of, where we're recording undo frames every time I try to go off the frickin' thing. By the way, I want a better blocked animation. Blocked animation, more responsive. Okay. Okay. That is weird to me. So reset. We go 1 frame. It's there. We go 2. We pop back 1. Okay, hold on. Slow down time. We go 2. We clearly recorded that second one. It said 5.8. Bam! So maybe we're not recording any data for some reason. Except we are, maybe we're recording the previous data. I don't know. This is really confusing me. Maybe we're doing some weird crap. Maybe we're saving the old undoable data. I need to look. Undo end frame. We make an undo record. Pending actions. Oh. Right. Okay, the problem with this is we're recording these pending, scan for changed entities. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to recompile in the debugger, or for debuggable version. And I'm going to slow time down way much. And I'm going to break in the second undo end frame. So we're going to look for undo. So we're going to go here. And I want to tap the key twice. Oh, wait. That's just once. Twice. So when we pass the middle of this square, we should be recording the new frame. Scan for changed entities. Okay, interesting. I'm suspicious that the very first entity is mismatching. I can't tell what type this is. Visual interpolation. Linear move. Start time -1. You know what? I bet we're recording frickin' everybody. For some reason. Yeah, really, okay, so we have to do a separate thing, which is undo records tons of entities. That is a problem. Do it like they did in the original Prince of Persia. It was glorious. I don't know what that did. Is it common for an employer to ask an employee in an employment agreement to give up their copyrights while employed, even outside of working hours? What would be your response to such a request if you were the employee? A lot of companies try to require you to do that. The legality of that changes in various states in the USA. I would simply not sign such an employment agreement. We do not ask for that at my company. What people do in their off time is their business. I think if a company were to try to ask me for that, they are asking for way too much and being greedy. That said, I don't know if, I mean, anytime, so here, you have to negotiate that, right? And the thing about negotiation, most people don't understand negotiation, right? If you just want something, like, gee, I would prefer it if I didn't have to sign this clause to work here, that's fine. You can ask for that, but if they really want you to sign it, they'll just say no, right? To really negotiate, you have to be willing to walk away. You have to be willing to say, look, I'm not going to take this job unless they strike that clause from the contract, right? If that is your position, then you should be able to bargain well, right? Unless they don't actually value you as an employee above any other random person and they figure it's easy to hire somebody else. So that's how that works. You know, so it depends on your own personal situation, the amount of leverage that you have in that situation. But seriously, you can't negotiate for anything unless you're willing to leave, right? That goes for like negotiating for a higher salary or to work on a different project than the one that they put you on, any of these things, right? You have to be willing to just say, all right, I'm out of here, bro. That's how you actually get power in negotiation. And for that to work, it has to be inconvenient for them, at least, if you leave. Okay. Well, this isn't... I was about to say this isn't telling me much, except it is telling me a lot. It's telling me that we are in fact, well, get out of here. We are in fact recording a frame. It's got way more stuff than we wanted to, and we're going to have to deal with that. But we are recording a frame of undo. So let's just see. Handler's pending actions is it's got 142 entities in it. That is not how many entities we want to record, let me point out. Okay. Okay, so we added that record. So, undo records. We have 2 records. All right. So now, we're going to break in really do one undo. And I'm going to hit Z here. Boop. So we should have 2 records. We didn't. We only have 1. Okay. Okay, well, that is interesting. Let's run the program again. I'm going to slow down time. So that was our first undo end frame. This is our second one. So we add that to records. And then I'm going to say data breakpoint. Who is getting rid of this? And I bet it's something dumb. I wish Visual Studio had better data breakpoints so I didn't have to put in a undo end frame. What? Okay, this is just things going bananas. We have to start over. It's probably because the key was held down because we didn't have focus. I have to make time real slow. Real slow, and we'll try this again. So undo end frame. Bing. Bing. Okay, when we hit the middle of the square, we bing. So now we're going to data breakpoint. OX20EE3218 FOO. Okay. So now we're here. And I hit Z. Oh, right. Because we popped the thing. So, of course, the count goes down. Okay. Okay. I feel like it's something to do with this old undoable data versus new undoable data, right? I think that was a nuance of the way the undo system used to work. Ugh, yes. So the old undoable data would be the previous frame state. The new undoable data okay. Else something like that. Maybe that's how it should be in the editor as well. I don't know. Dude, I don't know what's going on. Let's just see. Hey, that worked. It's almost like I could program. Okay, that was kind of broken. Okay, I'm gonna have to think seriously. So now that we've changed what we're storing, it's all jazzy jazzed. Jazz hands. Okay. We have determined this is the right way to do it. I'm tired. I'm too tired to be doing a core systems component right now. It's 11 p.m. We might have to pick this up in the morning. But so, you know, since I fiddled with that, this guy is at the bottom of this column is not coming alive again properly until some random previous time. Yeah. Okay. So the time when we do the undo is now different than before. See, before we did it when things actually changed state from one square to another, which is why we have this old and new state thing. Now, that doesn't really make sense because we're checkpointing it at one pinpoint in time. And the problem with that well, it's a very, okay. We're just going to need to do it really differently than how it works. And maybe I'm going to attack that in the morning. Because right now we're storing this old data and new data in the entity itself. And it doesn't really make sense to do that. Really, you want the undo system to remember the data from that last time and the data from this time. And to record anything that changed. So we're basically going to have to change all of that. It's going to work more like the braid system did instead of the weird thing that I did for this game. I think this is the kind of thing, it's going to be a major change, so I'm going to want to sleep on it before I do the major change. But there are some other things we can do. So I mentioned, for example, this thing about banging up against the wall. We don't want to keep undoing, right? So there we're going to do something like, ditch, scuttle the previous undo frame if our action didn't do anything. So that has to work for each action type, right? It has to work for movement, going into a wall. It has to work for magic, and it has to work for whatever else. But yeah, so I'm going to do that part of it. And then tomorrow morning in a fabulous stream, we'll do the part of it that that involves changing the way we store the data. I don't know why I did it this way originally. It wasn't a good idea. It's confusing. You would think that I would be the master at undo, but you kind of want different things at different times is the problem. You know what I'm saying? You want different things at different times. And you want different things for the editor than from the game, for example. And you want different things in one game than you want in another game. Or sometimes you think you want different things, and then it turns out you didn't really want different things. Anyone have any on-topic questions? While I am so tired. Wow, someone subscribed with a tier 1 sub. Matt Cod, thank you. That's a real sub. It's not an Amazon Prime sub. Okay. We'll consider questions about the compiler on topic for the purposes of right now. What would I say about an undo-redo system built out of function pairs for do-func, undo-func? It doesn't sound very useful to me because it's the way that this works is not by executing. That's a very object-oriented way to think about it. Like an object knows how to undo itself or whatever, but that's not the way it works, right? Objects don't know how to undo themselves. There's a system that tracks all the data for all the objects, and the system knows how to apply changes to object state forward or backward in time. That's the sane way to do it. Because you don't know what, the object doesn't know what the system cares about. The system does. So, yeah. So you don't need pairs of procedures, you need pairs of data. And that's what I had in that code was, you know, old state and new state. But it's not really the right way to do it. You were thinking a lot about a question you wanted to ask from a previous stream, but can't think of it again. That's okay. I do that a lot too. Does the system only save what changed, or does it save the whole state? Right now, it saves the whole state, but that's probably a bad idea. Or maybe Ignacio changed it. Nope, we just saved the whole state. So I'm going to be changing that too. Dude, we're going to be changing so much, it's going to be awesome. Maybe not awesome, but yeah. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be a party. It's going to be a party. You can program anything in any programming language. It doesn't matter if it's the same language. Like you would need an implementation of that language somewhere else first, but then once you had it, you could write the compiler in it, obviously. When you did undo redo for a web app, you did it as a pair of closures, but you're not sure it's the best way, really. That doesn't make sense to me. I mean, obviously there has to be some procedure that you call to perform undo and that you call to perform redo, but like, I mean, that's anything, right? You call procedures to do things. The operation itself is a function with data. I mean, how do you serialize that closure, right? How do you compress the data in that closure? When you want to save like 1,000 of them to disk in one file, right? Etc. Undo is actually a game mechanic. So it's a puzzle game. So you might be running around and you die, and then you're like, okay, well, that obviously wasn't the right thing to do. I need to be able to undo. And so right there, I was stuck on the ground for a while because of what I was just saying about needing to scuttle. So let's think about that. For moves, okay, I need to say scuttle needs to work for moves and magic And pick up, drop. What were our action types? Delta, undo, activate. I don't know why pick up, drop isn't in there. Maybe that's activate. Maybe that's what activate does. With regard to walking into a wall multiple times and undoing just once, is there stuff in the game that would be different depending on when you make the moves? NPCs that might move on each move. Yeah, there's stuff like that. There's actually real-time moving NPCs, but the policy is going to be just whatever their state was when you started moving, that's what you go back to. Do I use a scene graph? No, games don't use scene graphs these days. Scene graph is an idea from like the early 2000s or late 90s, or maybe even earlier than that in computer graphics circles, but like it's not how you want to do anything. It's garbage. It's garbage. Nobody wants to use a scene graph. Bad idea. Okay, so when a character is going to move, I decide if they're blocked and set let's go to enact move. Okay, so we do this. Okay, if it's an activation, we do activate. If it's a magic, we use magic. If it's a move, okay, we get all the guys who are going to move, and we call moved. Oh, in 2 passes. I forgot about all this. We already do all this. Here we go. If not everyone moved, scuttle last undo. So we're going to do this. And we are gonna do whatever we're doing here. Wait. Let's go down to the other overload of really do want undo. So this one is pop. Okay. So okay. This is basically all we want to do. We'll get particular about memory and stuff later when it actually does what we want it to do. Okay, so here and then, right? And then boom, it worked. So if I just bang myself against this wall for a while, boom, look at that. If I wiggle down here forever, like I did that one time, boom. How awesome is that? Okay. Of course, that guy still doesn't get up, but whatever. He's alive. Okay, he knows he's alive. It's just his orientation doesn't update. So it might not be as deep of a problem as I think, but we're still gonna rewrite that undo system because I don't like the tracking the state inside the entity. It's not how it should go. All right. So one of the things we have to do eventually is save games to disk anyway. So, and that's really something that I have to do within the next couple weeks. So we might as well maybe try to do a big sprint tomorrow where I redo the undo and all that. Okay, so that's fine. That worked very well. How about, well, for activate and if we didn't do anything, well, let's see if these return bool. Nope. So return false, return false, return false, return true. And then expression is void. So use magic. Where's that defined? That returns bool. Return false. We don't need that comment. Change false. And all of these need to return bool. 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 Okay, and then I bet magic push scan doesn't return bool. We've got so much bool. So where's magic push scan? Turn false. Turn false. We can factor. Return changed. Changed. I got changed. You got changed. Not all control paths return a value. All right. So okay. We need to make a test. This is going to be a dumb test, but let's pick up these items. All right. That worked. Let's so one thing this item can do is push blocks. So oops, let's now I'm totally messing up this level. All right, so I'm gonna get this. I'm puffing a lot. We're storing a lot of undos, but I'm gonna undo and yeah. Okay. Now I'm gonna puff. Boom, it moved it. Boom, undo. Boom, undo. So it's working. But now if I undo a lot, boop. I love it when things work the first time. Of course, that didn't totally work the first time, but that's just, I think, the falling. That's for the same reason that the monster didn't reset, you know. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm going to presume that these work because our undo is doing the right thing. So now the last one is there we go. Okay. So why is that powered? Why can this guy not? Oh, because, right. This is problematic. I'll just put that on there. All right. So Undo. Undo. Okay, that's good. Undo. Great. That works. Now we just need pick up drop. Let's get another character in this action. This guy. Okay, the gem is not, we're like duping gems. But again, I think that's, so I'm going to say undo gem duping. All right, well, we've got our work cut out for us tomorrow morning because it's going to be a big overhaul of the undo system, but that's going to be fun because it's going to result in a very good final situation. Has any of our team tried a path ray tracer or rather graphical project? Not really. I mean, just game rendering like you see. And this hasn't got that sophisticated yet. I don't know anything about Ogre, but if it uses a scene graph, that's not good. That will mess with in-game economy. I don't know what that means. Any questions? We'll go to off-topic questions now because I'm pretty much too tired to program now. We're going on midnight. And, well, I'm not too tired to do small things, but this is going to be a big thing, a big core system component. And that is worth being wide awake for. Because if you mess those up, you pay for it for a long time. So we're going to do that in the morning. I'm going to put undo, rewrite. We're going to do that. We're first going to do the rewrite. We're going to make sure it basically works. And then we're going to get all these other things working, like make sure the monster wakes up when he's undead and make sure we don't dupe gems. We're going to test all the gameplay modes, and we're going to run all the level tests that we already have, which are, by the way, probably going to, all the ones that have undo in them are probably going to break right now if I run them, but we'll try it. And then we'll do serialize undo into save games, because the thing is, undo is, it's gameplay relevant in this game, right? Because you might want to undo the things you did. Oh, we're not. That was weird. Well, one of the objects disappeared. It's fine, we'll fix it. So when people save their save game, you want them to be able to load it and then be able to undo what they did, because they might have been in the middle of a complicated situation, right? And we don't do that yet. So we're going to have to do that as well as all these other things. Why does Sony keep the PlayStation GPU API under NDA? I have no idea. They think it's advantageous to them for some reason. Doesn't make sense to me. If you can have two of speed, cost, and quality. Do you mean speed of development or speed of the running program? I don't believe in the pick two thing, by the way. You just work harder and then you can pick more than two. Like the pick two thing is not true. Always. In some cases it's true. Like in this one, I guess you just decide that you don't care that much about cost. If you do not use a scene graph, do you just maintain a number of arrays for things to render, or is there some other smart thing? I mean, the thing is your game, the data structures that you want to store things into render depend very heavily on your actual rendering, right? If you're rendering a lot of translucent things, you're going to store things one way. If you're rendering, if you have a lot of off-screen render targets with different kinds of things going into the various render targets, you're going to store things another way, right? The reason scene graphs are bad is they impose some kind of taxonomy on how you're supposed to organize your data that doesn't necessarily meet the actual needs of your application, right? Well, and rendering is not the only, like there's a bunch of cross-cutting concerns, right? So, you know, updating my entities quickly in terms of gameplay logic might matter to me, right? Being able to feed data into the job system and receive it back might matter to me. Interacting effectively with serialization matters to me. And all of those things, in order to satisfy those constraints and many, many more, I need to be able to have maximum facility to change the way that things are stored. And what scene graphs say is like, no, you don't have that ability. It's stored the way the renderer wants. And the renderer was written by someone who doesn't know anything specific about your game. It's just not good. It's never the right thing. And the things, you know, when scene graphs were built, the ideas of what they had to, they were sort of envisioned in the OpenGL 1 days when you had this whole idea of pushing state and popping state. And like nothing works that way anymore, so it doesn't make sense. So yeah, you just use whatever data structures you want internally to your engine that help you do what you need to do. That's a very generic answer, but the reason it's so generic is because it changes for every game, and we need it to change for every game. If you were to give advice to your younger self regarding quitting your day job and going completely indie, how much in savings would you have before you go that route? I've almost never had a day job, so I'm the wrong person to ask. You know, the first company we started, it probably would have helped to have a little more in savings, but it was fine, you know, back in 1996 or whatever. I had some money. And then we had to, when we were running out of money, we had to get funding, and we did. So that was fine. My advice would be more about how to do better at running that company and how to do better at developing the software. Have I played Become Human? No. I don't like story-based games, generally speaking. They're not my thing. They are not my thing. Let me see how many of these levels we fail if we go do this thing. Oh my God! Okay, hold on. We have our speed way, way, way up. Why is that so crazy? Because I set it to 300 as a test. Okay, well that explains it. A different bug on the to-do list is like tests fail when the speed is high, which is why I set the speed high to verify that. But that is less important than revamping the core undo system. Yeah, so that failed. Things with undo in them are going to fail a lot right now because we broke undo. So a lot of these levels are just not going to work. Hopefully, many of them will work later when we've revamped undo, but some may fail just because undo is a little different. Look at this one. Everybody died. Everybody died. What is happening? All of these are failing. We've really done a number on the game engine. That one worked. Yeah, we're going to have to fix this. Have I used Rust? No. I have recorded my opinions on it at length on YouTube, and the summary is I don't think an emphasis on safety is right for game development. An overemphasis on safety, right? If you can get more safety without paying anything, that's great. But Rust actually wants you to pay quite a bit for what safety you get. Look at all these failing levels, man. Oh my God. Undo just doesn't work. We're going to have to fix it. Fail, fail, fail. This game will cost money. For sure. Have I considered doing a level design stream? Maybe, but I don't want to spoil the game too hard. So probably not. What is the best game ever made? I don't know. I don't think games aren't very good. So it's hard to, I mean, Go is the best game ever made. And what do you want from me? The game's going to look a lot better than it does now. We are gradually improving the look, but like we don't have the real graphics online yet. When the real graphics are ready, everything will look a lot better than it looks now. How long do I think until I begin another witness scale project? We have begun another witness scale project, but it's not this game that you see. This one is a little smaller, but not too much smaller. And that's what I say now. It might well balloon into a witness scale project for all I know. Did I buy an asset pack? Do you want to get banned for troll questions? Did you buy an asset pack? How close is the language to be a witness scale project? So far, it's clearly much smaller, right? Like it was just me for a long time, and then there's just like a few programmers helping. The witness was a hard thing to make. The programming language is substantially easier. So far. I mean, by the time it's done and we do all the features that everybody wants and optimization and an environment of programs that go with it, like Visualizer and stuff, by then it might be a witness scale project. But we'll get there in stages that'll make it easier to deal with. Whereas Witness, we had to do it all at once before releasing it, and it was hard. What hardware has best improved my quality of life when programming? I don't really use that much hardware. Like my mouse, I like my mouse. Logitech G900. My only complaint about it maybe is that the body is a little bit small for somebody with big hands, so I might try to find a bigger mouse with good tracking. But like, you know, how much hardware do you think there is? Yeah, I talked about doing a homemade compiler at some point, but the thing is right now we've just got too many projects going for me to do that. But sometime, I think what I've decided is like a little later, once the language is stabilized a little bit and people have access to the compiler, then I'll do handmade compiler using the new language. And we'll see how that goes. But it won't be for a while. How do I feel about my productivity during my early game dev years? It was pretty good, but of course it could have been better. It always could be better. Always could be better. Oh. Emacs foot pedals, yeah. Yeah. Did I ever find a new laptop? No, I returned the junky one. And now I'm back on my old laptop, and maybe I'm just never going to buy another laptop again. I don't know. If nobody makes a good one, I just won't buy anything. Is IndieFund still active? Yes, IndieFund is still active. What was the story with the laptop? It was terrible, is the story. How many different languages should a good junior programmer know? Here's the thing. Knowing a lot of languages is not very impressive, especially if you don't know them very well, which is what a lot of junior people do. I only know 2 programming languages, really. That's not even true. Like, I don't know 80% of C++, right? I know, so one of the languages I know is 20% of C++, including C or whatever. Probably even less. I probably know 10% of C++. It's just that that's what I use to make things. And then I know the language that I'm making, right? Those are the 2 things that I can use competently. And I have 30-something freaking years of experience, right? Once upon a time, I knew Scheme and Lisp better. But if I were to go program in those right now, I'd be pretty slow. Once upon a time, I knew ML a little better than I do now. But if I were to go program in that now, I'd be pretty slow. And I'd be looking things up all the time, right? What's important is your ability to make things happen. I know a little bit of Perl. I write scripts in Perl once in a while. But again, I'm pretty slow. I look things up all the time. It's much, much more important to have deep expertise in one area than to have shallow expertise in a bunch of places, right? Because the deep expertise is what lets you solve hard problems. If you have shallow expertise, you can do what other programmers can do only. And that's not very compelling. So I would say 2. You should know 2 languages. You should know 1 procedural language and 1 functional language. And that's it. And neither of them should be fucking JavaScript or PHP. And then you're good. Have I played the new PUBG map? Yes, a little bit. What is my favorite game of the past decade that isn't my own? The past decade? Dude, I don't know. Counter-Strike Source, when did that come out? Probably more than a decade ago. I don't know. Games aren't very good, dude. Opus Magnum, Pony Island. I don't know. Go look at my Steam recommendation list. Maybe I should put that on the FAQ here so that people could find it. Would I invest in $8,000 USD computers if they fixed a lot of the problems with computers? Absolutely. It would not take very much for a better computer to make back that money in terms of productivity. It really wouldn't. I would buy an $8,000 computer for every employee if we could buy one that was better, right? Absolutely. We pay about $3,000 a computer right now, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, depending on, when exactly we're buying it relative to the technology curve. But yeah, I'd easily pay more than double that if we could get computers that were better. Where by better, I even just mean like, dude, if we could get Windows that like didn't do all the stupid crap that Windows does about updates and installation and tracking you and having a zillion daemons running in the background and like having the ability to migrate your settings over in the equivalent of text files in your home directory, I would pay thousands of dollars for that every time we buy a computer. It's no contest. But nobody's interested in making the high quality computers, so we don't have such a thing. Is Prey good? You know, I didn't love it. I played it all the way through it. I didn't love it. Did I ever read through the source of any of the id Tech engines earlier on in my career? I did a port of Doom and Doom 2, so I looked at those. If one were to write a new OS, should there be something of a compatibility API to support porting programs easier, like copying Win32, or should all programs be rewritten? I don't know. It depends on your, if you want a wide audience, then you can't demand that all programs get rewritten, but maybe that's not the right thing, you know? Maybe if you want to make an operating system and the goal is to do something right that grows slowly and isn't contaminated by the terrible software habits we have in the world today, maybe the goal is to be content that for 20 years, not many people are going to use it. And then it gets big later because it's so much better than the alternatives, maybe. I would be tempted to try that approach, honestly, but you have to be brave because you might say, well, maybe I'll work on it 20 years and nobody will use it, right? So I don't think that's an untenable approach, but it will be an approach that means that only a select few enthusiasts will use your thing for a long time. But if you're okay with that, then maybe that's a good tactic. How long do I think it'll take for another OS to show up to compete with Windows for games? I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe never. Long time. Never, it obviously won't be never, but it'll be a long time. Because nobody seems interested. SteamOS could have done it, but Valve was not interested in doing what it really took. They just wanted to do a lazy thing and they threw something over the wall and it didn't stick and they gave up. Ever considered donating to the SENS Foundation? Interesting you ask that. If you look at their list of donors, I am on that list. So that should answer your question. You're always lost when deciding how to split code into files. Any tips? Just don't split code into files until you feel like there's too much stuff in one file, by which I mean you're actively having a hard time. Like you feel like there should be two different categories, but they feel mixed together because they're in one file. And then you know what those two categories are and you make a file for one of the categories. That's just how it is. Don't like go about it by like drawing out 20 files a priori and figuring out who goes where. That's not a good way to do it. Just let everything be in one file until you don't have to. Can I elaborate on the terrible software habits? No, there's many rants from me about this on YouTube. Like almost all current software is so bad that it almost shouldn't exist. It's clearly worse than software written 20 years ago. Like there's no question about that. In almost every dimension. It's bad. It is bad. What resources would I give a programmer who is just starting out? I really don't know. I haven't learned to program in, 37 years. So I honestly don't have a feel for what it's like to try today. It's just much easier than it ever was in the past. So I don't have that much sympathy for that question, because like, look, if you want to learn to program, just fucking sit down and program. Like, don't bother asking people. You have so much information in front of you right now that it really destroys by orders of magnitude any opportunity that I had when I was a kid. So like, just do it. If you don't do it, you don't have an excuse. Sorry. You really don't. So do I think AI machine learning could help people code? And maybe I'm interpreting that question slightly the wrong way, but a lot of people ask this kind of a thing. And it always seems to me like a delaying question, like, oh, I can't get started programming because I don't know exactly what is the right start. And maybe someone will tell me. It's like, no, that's not. To program, you need to have initiative. You need to take initiative. And the first way to take initiative is to get excited about something and go learn it. So that's my advice, is get interested in something and just go learn it. Which, if you're watching Handmade Hero, maybe that's already happening. So, I don't mean that to be a criticism of you specifically, because I don't know your situation, but it's just, I get I get questions in that neighborhood often enough that I'm just like, I am not really interested in answering these. There is so much information. Now, it's true that a lot of the information is misleading or not good, but that's been true through all of history. The first programming language I learned was BASIC. BASIC is not a very good language for writing software in. It's a terrible language for writing software in, but it was enough to start learning. So it's fine. If you learn OOP to start with, that's fine. It's not great. It's probably worse than learning BASIC, honestly, but it's better than not learning anything. And then you can learn why it's not a good approach later when you have experience. It's fine. Just start doing stuff, man. You think people ask that question because they want a path to the not terrible way? Yeah, but again, it doesn't. You can start out the terrible way. It's fine. You just, as long as you're getting enough experience to notice what's bad, I don't know. I mean, you don't want to do things a terrible way for too long, but if you have a choice between, I'm going to take one of these development paths of learning, and whatever I pick might be wrong and might be bad habits, or I'm not going to do anything because nobody's telling me the right answer, well, the second one is worse. So do the first one and then be actively looking for how to improve, right? Do you have any insights about if it would be possible to put out smaller indie titles? I don't like the word titles. Already you're brainwashed by the game industry. In terms of amount of content, with an intent of releasing a sequel that has a good amount of content, in this way testing the waters of the market without investing the same amount. Not really. I mean, maybe if that's the viable strategy that you can afford to do, then go for it. But maybe it's possible, maybe not, right? I mean, sometimes people would get excited about a big thing when they wouldn't get excited about a small thing that's mechanically similar. That's just how people are. Some people might get excited about a game that looks really good, where they wouldn't be excited about a game that's mostly the same, except doesn't look as good. It's just how people are. So maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, right? If it's your only option because you can't invest that time or that much money into making something, then you just have to be maximally smart about what you make. And what that is, that depends heavily on your personal inclination and your skill set and all that stuff. Yeah, it's true. So Tivalamo, or however you pronounce it, says, when you become a good enough programmer, it doesn't matter which language you learned, you can pretty much pick up any language in a day. That's true. Although I will say, to a shallow level, you can pick up languages in a day. And then, of course, you have to work with them before you really understand the nuances of them. And that's also probably not true if a new language works very differently from your old one, right? So if you learned procedural languages and then you're going to learn Lisp or Haskell, that's probably not one day, right? It probably takes a week or 2 weeks to get the hang of it, really, because it works a little differently than what you're used to. Similarly, if you're going to use a language based on software transactional memory, that's just different from how you're used to programming. So it'll take more than a day. But the basic sentiment is true. Yeah. Wow, people are subbing. Thanks for the subs. Help buy the stream something to help make the stream better. I don't know. We'll have to figure out how to spend the stream budget. Anyway, so good luck to anybody who's starting out, right? It's good that people want to do the best thing. It's just that I very often see that question asking as a procrastination tactic, right? The first time I encountered a computer, it was a Commodore VIC-20. It was in a 7th grade programming class. And I didn't stop to wait for what the programming class was going to teach me. I just freaking stayed there during lunch and after school and got excited about it and did whatever I could do. That's what makes you a good programmer. It's not waiting for people to tell you something, right? This is what I mean when I say programming takes initiative. You have to proactively seek to understand things, and you have to proactively seek to have mastery over a situation at all scales, right? You have to seek to have mastery over what your program's doing, over how simple it is, over how fast it is. You have to seek to have mastery over your own level of programming skills and level of learning, right? That's the most basic skill. And so the time to start that is at the beginning, like day one, which is why I get frustrated with that question of how to start. Did I ever come really close to accidentally spoiling The Witness before it was released? Not that I'm aware of, but maybe there were some close calls that we didn't notice. Because of how unreliable GPU APIs are, do you think it's a bad idea to write software-rendered games if one is writing smaller games? I don't think it's a bad idea at all. In fact, if I had an infinite amount of time, I'd be making a software rendering API for this language, because it gives you great stability, right? It's probably slower. It's probably a lot slower on some machines. But dude, if you're not going to crash due to weird problems, that's great that you could give somebody that option. So maybe we will do that eventually. It's a little, The problem is once you get into rendering with really complicated shaders and stuff, you know, emulating GLSL or something is kind of bananas. But if you had a higher level thing like a material system that generates shaders, then implementing that is maybe more straightforward because it's a system you're in control of. I don't know. It is something that I would like to do at some point. What do I think about the contentification of games? It seems to me that modern mainstream games are designed to function as content delivery systems rather than push the medium forward in terms of design and ideas. I think that's true. I don't play most of those games, so that tells you what I think about them. I don't think they're that interesting. A lot of those are commercially successful. A lot of people do play them. You know, it's just like the most popular music is not the best music, right? The most popular art in museums is not the best art, and so forth. So it's just the world we live in. It's just the world we live in. How do you put pants on? Exactly. Exactly. Asking how you can get started programming is like asking how you put pants on. Sort of. I have lots of ideas that would improve current debugging tools. Lots and lots and lots. So I want to work on a program visualization and understanding system eventually, but there's just too much work to do on the compiler in the game right now. We can't do that yet, but we will eventually, because I think it's a very interesting topic and I want to play with it. Do I use a terminal for shortcuts, shell scripts, and automation? I just have a few function keys bound to like compile and run. That's it. I don't do a lot. Why not write shaders in the main language? Because shaders are compiled by the graphics driver. So you would have to translate them into GLSL or HLSL anyway. And GLSL and HLSL are not general purpose programming languages. So if you try to compile a general purpose language, it's not really going to work. You would have to program in a subset of that anyway, and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Maybe we could define a subset of that that also works on GPUs. But I feel like that part of GPU programming is going to change within a few years. Maybe it won't. I don't know. We'll see. How do I deal with giving up on a project? I don't give up on projects usually. I don't commit to something till I know it's really going to be good, and then I stick it out till the end. So why would you give up on a project if you know it's going to be good? If you don't know if it's going to be good, then maybe you just have to treat it, the project is the learning experience. I don't know. Yeah, and the other game that I mentioned, it's true. Yes. Don't I think the SPIR-V is a good idea, allowing you to precompile shaders? Other graphics APIs have let you precompile shaders before, especially on consoles. They're just copying abilities that we've had on consoles for a long time. Like, yes, I think it's a good idea to be able to precompile shaders, but that's nothing specific to Vulkan. How much effort is being put into the witness nowadays? Something like half a programmer, probably less than that. We answer support emails, and that's about it. You don't give up on projects, you just have 97 of them. Yeah, well, it's going to be hard to finish 97 projects. That's a thing. Talking about the Metal Vulkan Fest. A little bit. We're doing random questions and answers, and Some people are talking about Vulkan. Would it be possible to compile this Sphere V? Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could do that. Again, it's probably not a good idea to try to compile a general program, but like a subset of a program that doesn't, call procedures through function pointers and doesn't heap allocate and stuff. Like a very specific program like that is much easier to compile to a shader. And, the more you mention it, the more I think, yeah, we'll probably implement something like that, honestly, eventually. Or somebody will if we don't. Somebody will make a library for it. Witness VR possible? Probably not anytime soon. We had unofficial VR support for a while, but it's really, if we do a VR game, it should be a design for VR game, not a game that we came along and pasted VR onto later. Thoughts on where GPU tech should go? Is there a solution to the mess, or GPU is just fundamentally a pain in the butt? I agree with Casey that I would like an instruction set architecture for GPUs. I think that has shown itself to be very successful for CPUs, and I don't really believe the idea that GPUs are so different that you can't do that. I think maybe in the early days of GPUs that was true, but nowadays things are kind of more settled down. You had a rant about how Vulkan should focus on Android and Linux, and then developers should build on top of that. Isn't that still a solution if Vulkan is a glue API? No, I don't want to use a glue API. I want to use the low-level API that lets me do the most efficient thing with the hardware. I don't want to use a glue API. And I don't want to use a glue API, especially that's bad at being a glue API, because it's pretending to be low-level, like Vulkan is, when actually it's an interface to an API that works totally differently, so it's not really low-level. That's just stupid. It's like wasting a ton of programmer time. Why would you ever do it? It's a bad idea. Bad idea. Bad Vulkan. No biscuit. I got so demoralized at I walked into that GDC presentation like, I'm going to learn about Vulkan because maybe we'll switch our GL stuff in this engine over to Vulkan. It'll be great. And I walked out of there going, nope, 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 nope. These guys are going totally the wrong direction. Oh my God. Ho, ho, ho. I think it's time for me to go to bed, folks. Let's find someone to host. We will stream in the morning to do the undo system, and it's quite possible that it will turn into an extensive project, so I may not go into the office tomorrow. We will see. We will see. Let's host somebody. Programming. East Shade Development. I don't know what that is. It looks like a Unity game or something. Rift Runners. Twitch and Studios working on a framework for Twitch streamers. I don't like these like Twitch Plays games. I mean, they're fine, but Bedtime Mathematics. What is that?
Derivative of f.
Can't read. It's too blurry.
T on the outside gets subtracted by 1. That's interesting.
Okay, this is not a quality stream. Sorry. Well, that was not a quality moment. Senior software engineer is back. How about game development? Let's check that channel. Have I bought good microphone equipment? I've had a good mic for a while. I got a mic stand out from storage, so it's a lot closer to me than it used to be, so hopefully that makes it better. H1Z1 level design stream. Dude's got viewers. Good for him. East Shade, Game Dev, Chill. I don't know. I never know what's going to be good to stream. Why is there an anime character down in the corner? What's going on? Oh, that's not.
Old photos. Seems like that. So
Why
that
is-
means I can stop syncing those to my SSD.
Well, it looks like maybe he's doing a game, but then he's playing with Dropbox, so that's not necessarily a good host. Will I re-enable the eye tracker next stream? Yeah, I just forgot to turn it on. I rebooted and it's set up. I just forgot. Well, maybe we do the H1Z1 level design stream. Or maybe we do this.
Add it to the object pool.
I don't like the music thing. It bothers me, especially when it's not good music.
Combat Beat was new update in Z1. Hopefully not feels. So we're removing some of the combat.
Let's
stuff.
host this dude. He's got a lot of viewers, but we'll give him more viewers.
And keep the muscle memory things. Let's see if we can't get a little bit more, or a little bit less recoil growth in there for the AR and the AK.
He seems to be good at explaining what he's doing and all that. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.
And then see if we can't do anything with the ADS time delay. This reminds me of Mirror's Edge. Yeah, but yeah. So the last couple weeks, been like maybe 1 or 2 nights a week, rebuilding this POI.